All right, welcome to the video version of the Peebcast, our very first one. So give us a break. I love the background. Ronnie, you did a great job on the banner. Follow us on the Peebcast at Peebler22 or at Ronnie Easom. Those are our Twitter handles. Should you ever need them, they're right here on the bottom. Ronnie, we got a lot of stuff we want to talk about today, and they're all about, that good old quarterback position. We had a great conversation on Friday. And I feel like there's still a lot of stuff that we have to chat about.
There's a whole lot of unpacking to do on this situation with all these quarterbacks. And we've just got about 7 or 8 of them that we've jotted down, and there could be a lot more movement than that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So obviously, I think the very first one that we should probably talk about, there was some news regarding a Mr. Aaron Rodgers that he had an Instagram post that I found quite interesting.
Yep.
That he was like thanking everybody. It almost sounded like a goodbye, and then that very last picture was of Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams with a space in between, which was interesting. It almost seemed like he wasn't going to be there, but then on Tuesday he shows up on the Pat McAfee show and basically said a whole bunch of weird stuff and nothing of value, really, that he's still making his decision. He did come out of a 12-day cleanse, though. That is breaking news.
That's good. Really good. I'm glad to hear that. That's important. Yeah, I mean, we all know that Aaron Rodgers likes to toy with the media, and I don't see this as anything more than that. But hopefully we find out his decision sooner than later so we can move on from this and start focusing on where he's going and what that means for his new team, if it is in fact a new team.
Absolutely. So the name of this episode is Quarterback Carousel. So we are going to go through some scenarios where we feel like there's potentially could be a ton of quarterbacks moving this offseason. You agree with that, Ronnie?
I do, and especially with the draft class this year being what it is, which isn't very good, at least on paper. I think there's going to be a lot of teams looking for some veteran players, and I feel like there's a number of teams that are just maybe a quarterback away from really being contenders too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now everything that we talk about here, okay, we have to talk about in the premise of maybe cap space and maybe resources. Now, we didn't go through every single team, and we didn't go through, okay, how many first-round picks. We went through a couple of them. We know that Philly has, Ronnie, how many?
3.
3. 1, 2, and 3. 3 first-round picks.
And
that's a lot of
19.
capital.
Yeah.
That's a lot of capital, right? To be able to, if you want a quarterback and there's one up for trade, and this is not a quarterback-heavy market in free agency or in the draft, they have the ability to go get one. Now, one thing I want to show everybody real quick is this screen right about here. This is the salary cap, okay? So there's some people, how do you get this information? Yeah, I'm tipping my cards a little bit. Overthecap.com. They do change it quite a bit. They try to keep it as up to date, but as you can see down here with the Green Bay Packers, $42 million over the cap, okay? Now, a team like the Eagles, who I think that may be in the market for a quarterback, they have $18 million to work with. So keep this in mind, and I'm sure that we'll be bringing it up a couple different times, but keep this in mind. This is a resource. Now, as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, I happen to think that the Denver Broncos makes plenty of sense. They have $38 million to work with. So, Ronnie, thinking about that and thinking about Aaron Rodgers, I think we're going with the premise that he's going to go somewhere. We're playing the game that he's going to go somewhere. We're just going to make that decision up, okay? And we're going to get rid of the if, and we're saying he is.
We have made the decision. Do you think
that Denver might be the best fit for him?
I mean, talent-wise, yeah, absolutely. They've got a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball and a championship defense still, even with the loss of Von Miller. But I do question, though, do they have the draft capital to make that deal? Because from what I'm hearing, it's going to take 3 first-rounders and a couple of second-rounders over the next 2 to 3 years to make a deal like that happen. I don't doubt that that Elway would make a move like that. He's been looking for a quarterback since he took over there, but I don't know if they have. Well, obviously they have some first round picks, but I don't know if they would be willing to part with the next 3 years worth of first rounders.
Okay. So I totally understand that. Totally get that. But
But
I feel like this is something that John Elway's done before. I happen to remember the last time they won a Super Bowl, they brought in a very successful Super Bowl winning quarterback. His name is Peyton Manning. Like, this blueprint isn't a new blueprint that Denver would be doing. They have the cash. That's a big thing because Aaron Rodgers isn't cheap. He's not cheap. He's going to cost a lot of money. So I feel like that they're a quarterback away. They have a really good running game. I feel like they have a really, really good defense, especially in the secondary. Now, there's going to be some things that happen in free agency that they're going to have to re-sign a couple guys back. But I think that it helps if you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers help attract some of those free agents too, if they get this deal done.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't know that they necessarily need a lot of free agents. You look at the receiving core; they go, 3 deep there. You look at the running backs; they've got Gordon and Javonte Williams. Are both going to be there next year? I don't know.
Javonte will be there. I know that.
Yeah, Williams is going to be there, and I know as a fantasy football player, I'm banking on that. I'm hoping for that. But we've seen this a couple of times. You mentioned Peyton Manning. We just saw the Rams do it too. Gave up some draft picks to bring in Stafford, and that worked out well for them. So the blueprint is certainly there, and I can see that happening.
Now, do you think it's the best place for him? Like, if you were, I mean, I feel like I'm interviewing you all of a sudden, Ronnie, about Aaron Rodgers, but if you could choose any place for him to go, that the Packers would potentially be willing to trade him to, I feel like the AFC, he's out of conference. The team can allocate money, right? They're able to withstand his salary cap, and they have resources, right? They have their first round picks. Is there a different scenario that you could see him going that might fit some of those parameters, or is that it?
Here's the thing. It's interesting. I was kind of doing some reading online earlier today, and DraftKings actually has a odds-on favorites to land Aaron Rodgers. Number one, of course, was the Packers they had. Number two was, of course, the Broncos. But interesting, number three on that list, and you're going to love this, 49ers. Yeah.
I don't get it. I absolutely do not get it. And it's almost to the point, like, it's teasing me to the point where I'm going to lose my mind. Like, stop it. It doesn't make any sense. First of all, you got me going, Ronnie. You got me going. The 49ers are $4.5 million over the cap right now. Okay. So they have to do some restructuring and all that stuff. A big piece of that is trading Jimmy Garoppolo. $25 million magically falls back into our lap, and all of a sudden we're $20 million underneath the cap. A lot of wiggle room to be able to do some stuff. Okay. But if we bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is $35 million, it just doesn't make sense. And then why did you draft Lance? Like, I just don't understand it. I don't feel like it's part of the plan. I get it makes for great TV. It makes for, oh yeah, that would be cool. What if? Listen, if somehow they made that happen and they went on a run, are you going to hear me complaining about it? No, I'll probably wear a number 12 jersey, rooting the whole way. But at the same time, it's not just about 1 year. In my opinion, it's got to be something that's sustainable. And if you traded up in last year's draft and gave up the number of picks. So number one, they don't have picks to give away for Rodgers. So that ain't happening.
Yeah.
San Francisco's beat Green Bay in the playoffs a lot of times. I can't imagine their GM's very excited to do any deals with the 49ers too. And you got Trey Lance. Like, this is supposed to be his time. This whole reason they're getting rid of Jimmy is for Trey Lance time. It's not for Aaron Rodgers time. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. The same thing with the Tom Brady thing. 44-year-old quarterback? Really? Come on.
That one's going to surprise me to see that. Fourth on that list was the Colts, and that's kind of where I was heading. Could you imagine the Colts with him in the backfield?
Okay.
They have a line to protect him, and he's got a great back, maybe the best in the league.
Maybe he is. I mean, I think he's the most dynamic back. Okay. So you could put Christian McCaffrey in there, but he's been injured. Derrick Henry is a great runner of the football, but he is not nearly as fast as Jonathan Taylor. Like, let's be real. This guy is in the prime of his career and doesn't have
Yeah.
probably 1,000 touches like King Henry does.
Yeah.
So I think you're right there. The receiver position, I think they're young, right? And defensively, I feel like that's a great spot. And guess what? They have $35 million too. So I agree with you. That's out of conference. It would fall in those things. But there's one problem, Ronnie. What did they give up to get Wentz? What happened there?
They actually gave up a first and a third, so they would have to give up more first. And I don't know that Frank Reich is be willing to do that.
I think it's really tough. I think it's a great idea. Oh wow, how weird would that be? Him
That
to
would
be in
be.
some blue and white. It'd be weird. I can almost see him more in Denver, but I think the Denver Broncos. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Hackett. That's the first domino that fell. That you and I have been talking about this. I don't think he's coming back to Green Bay. They're $42 million over the cap right now. Devontae Adams has not been in contact with the team, and we know that they are buddies. I feel like, what if Denver goes and gets Devontae and they get Aaron Rodgers? Because who's in their division, Ronnie? What quarterbacks are in that division?
Yeah, there's some guy in KC. I don't remember the name, and that escapes me. But then there's this other guy named Carr, and of course Herbert as well. So that division with Mahomes, okay, I'll say it.
It's an
It
arms
is
race.
stacked. It is stacked.
It'd be an arms race. I can see them doing it, and I feel like Elway. I don't know. I'm picking. If there's my prediction is he's not going to be in Green Bay. I think he's going to go to the Broncos, not just because it sucks for him to leave Green Bay. It does, but at what point, if you were able to get that, like Ronnie, what did you say? 3 first-round picks and a potential second and a third rounder in there, just kind of mixed in whatever years.
Yeah, so the one that I saw was 3 first rounders and 2 seconds, I believe, and then a third I think I saw in there as well, along with some players.
Like the
But
King's ransom.
yeah, that would be a lot. I mean, even Stafford didn't get that when they traded for him. They gave up a couple of first rounders, but not 3. And it's interesting that to me that Aaron Rodgers could be garnering 3 first round picks in a trade. And that's the same thing that Houston's asking for Watson. And I'm sorry, Watson's not on Rodgers' level, at least not at this point. So, but we'll talk about him later. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Denver's probably the best match and the best fit.
All right. So Denver it is. We agree. Aaron Rodgers, you're on to Denver. Mile High City, baby. And he's a hippie, and there's some things there I think he might like. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's next? Who we talking about next, Ronnie? Oh, Mr. Wilson. None other than Russ Wilson, right? He has been in the news a little bit, but his is a little bit more Katy Perry hot and cold, right? So
Yeah.
yes, I want to stay in Seattle. I want to be there for 20 years. But then there's reports that will literally come out the very next day that says, I am open to going to the right situation for my family. I am open to these teams. I think Chicago was on the list last year. That was before they drafted Fields. Now it seems like a lot of attention has been going to Philadelphia. So then you got to look at Philadelphia's quarterback situation. Do you think they're really sold on their guy right now?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I'm not, but I don't run the team. So, but I don't think that the Philadelphia is necessarily ready to contend, even if they have a Russell Wilson. I don't have any faith in that, and that receiving corps' primary reason for that opinion. But I mean, Russell Wilson, he's 33. You maybe have, I don't know what, 4 or 5 years at least, maybe.
Yeah. Why does it seem like he's older than 33?
I actually thought it maybe younger.
You did?
But he doesn't play my division either, so.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's been making me feel like he's been in the division for centuries now, and he just makes me mad because I've said some things on this podcast where I said I don't think that he's all that great of a quarterback, which sparks some stuff. I don't, but he always gets us too. So there's that. Like he's like a thorn in my side. Like it's not a big one, but he's always there. And he gets out of certain situations, certain sacks. But I don't see him as a guy that does the things that Patrick Mahomes does. I don't see him as a guy that does the things like Josh Allen does. I don't see him as a guy like doing the things that Russell Wilson does. He needs a running game. And when they have a running game, he's successful. When they don't, he doesn't do well. I mean, he might have all the stats in the world, but their
Yeah.
defense isn't the Legion of Boom anymore.
Yeah. They were lacking a defense this year, and the running backs couldn't stay healthy. They really struggled on both of those fronts this past season. And but I think you can say that about just about any quarterback. They've got to have some help around them, whether it's in the run game, the receiving core, defense, whatever the case may be. So I don't know. For Wilson, gosh, let's say since we're playing this game of these quarterbacks are leaving and they're going to another teams, that means Derek Carr is leaving Las Vegas. So I'm going to send Wilson to Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. I mean, are we just stacking the AFC now? Is that what we're doing?
Pretty much, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers to the freaking Broncos, and now you're saying, okay, we can do that. We can send him to the Raiders potentially, but now let me ask you, what percentage do you think that's happening?
I don't. I personally, I don't think Carr's leaving. But for sake
I
of
don't
this
think he is either.
discussion,
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I think if there was anywhere that Wilson was going to go, and my argument is going to be based around, look who's in the division of the Seattle Seahawks. You have the Super Bowl. Oh God, this hurts. The reigning Super Bowl champion LA Rams. I said it. Okay, it's on video. It means
good
it
job.
happened.
I'm proud
Yeah,
of you.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Very tough.
Do you need a hug?
I do. After this, hey, the Rams, the 49ers, who, I mean, we'll talk about their quarterback situation here in a few minutes. But then you got Kyler Murray. I don't think anything's happening with him. I think he's just kind of rattling his cage to try to get a really good extension, which some people do it the right way. Some people do it the wrong way. And, well, I don't know if it's
then
right
there's some people that do it the Murray way.
that do it the Murray way. They come up just short of the right way.
You love those short jokes.
I love those short jokes with him. You want to know why? I know a lot of them because people used to say them to me. That's how I know. Thanks, Dad. I think that the Eagles would make a lot of sense, but here's why I'm making the argument for Wilson to leave. So you have all those teams in that division. How long is Pete Carroll going to be coaching for? How long is it going to be? You know, they just fired their defensive coordinator in Ken Norton Jr. They just fired him. Now, I feel like they're on the brink of a rebuild. I mean, this Russ thing has been kind of coming around. Is there a better market than right now to try to ship off a quarterback?
There isn't. And again, we go back to the draft, and that's a big reason why. And even the free agent market, you've got a couple of guys on that list who, of course, we'll talk about some of those as well. But I think because of the market out there right now, and this is obviously a quarterback-driven league, it's a passing league, you need a quarterback. And, so if Wilson is a potential for that, then he might be going. My question is, what would Wilson be going for? What do you think is a good trade value?
Man, I mean, if Wentz went for a conditional, he was a second and conditional first, right? And then, I mean, there's all this. What's that?
A third and then a conditional first.
And then a conditional first, right? Which he had to play 75% of his snaps. He had some problems with injuries in the past. I have a hard time thinking that Russell Wilson doesn't leave or leaves for less than 2 first rounders. Like it's at least 2. And you can make an argument if Rodgers stays put, it's 3 because that's the whole supply and demand deal.
That would be crazy. Just crazy.
That would be nuts.
3 first rounders.
3 first rounders. And so, I mean, that's my thing of you think about the future, but what's funny about the offseason is all about the future and the season is all about now.
Yeah.
Right. Like we always talk about, every week is it during the season, like you live and die by every week. But in the off season, it's, we're thinking 3, 4, 5 years from now, all of a sudden we all become general managers.
Wilson's 33 years old. Like, we talked about, is he like 3 first rounders? Would that be worth giving that up? But basically you're mortgaging your future for him with the hope that he can win you a Super Bowl, and let's say it's Philadelphia, I don't think there's enough pieces
I
there
don't
for him
think
to do
so.
that.
I don't think
Now,
so.
what's their cap space look like for the Eagles?
18 mil. They're 18.5 under the cap, so they have $18.5 million to spend. Now, mind you, some of that's got to go towards a draft class, and I imagine they'll
Right.
restructure. If Russell Wilson were to come to town, I imagine you'd have people at the GM's door going, "You can restructure my contract every day that you want." But I feel like they have more needs than just quarterback. I think
Well,
they need another receiver. They need
mhm.
to get their defense going. So
So let
for
me
them,
say this:
mortgaging their future doesn't make sense to me,
if they bring in Wilson, who's to say they don't sign Devontae Adams?
bro. They
I
could do
mean,
that.
they could.
Oh man. You okay? So if I'm Devonte Adams, that's a whole nother discussion, but just
Yeah.
sparked up by what you just said. If you're Devonte Adams, are you waiting to see where some of these quarterbacks go? I gotta imagine that he's waiting to see what happens with Aaron and vice versa
Yeah.
with him, right?
Yeah, I think the two are very much connected as far as whether they stay in Green Bay or not. I think if one leaves, the other will. If one decides to stay, then I think there's a potential of the other one staying as well. I just because mainly with Adams, I don't see Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay if his top target is Scantling. I
Or
just
Lazard.
Lazard, yeah, Adam Lazard.
Yeah.
So if but Adams may very well be like the last domino to drop, if you will. I think once the quarterbacks kind of start to settle in wherever they're going to be, I think that's when he makes his decision. Because look at some of the teams, and we're kind of getting off topic with the wide receivers, but if you look at some of the teams that currently have a quarterback, that it's, we'll call him a Super Bowl quarterback. Do they need a wide receiver? I don't
Yeah.
know the full list, but I'm going to guessing that that's probably not necessarily the case. And Adams isn't going to go to a team that's not going to contend. So I
No.
think, yeah, to
No.
your point, I think where these quarterbacks land is going to be huge for Adams' decision.
What's crazy right now is, I mean, we're trying to drop this world of they are going. There's a scenario that none of them.
Yeah,
I mean, some of these that we are going to talk about are going to go, but like Wilson and Rodgers, like to me, that sets the market, right? If they're
absolutely.
available, then whatever that you could get for, let's say, a Jimmy G is a lot less. But if Jimmy G is the top quarterback that you can get because none of those other guys are available because of the market the way that it is, I think you can get more than what you would have in other years, maybe even a first.
I can't wait till all this starts happening. This is exciting. I can't
It's
wait to see
really
what
exciting.
happens.
So
Yeah.
for our game, I'm picking Russell Wilson going to Philadelphia. I'm saying they get rid of. I think Jalen Hurts maybe even sticks there because he's under a rookie contract. But they could potentially that could be part of the trade though too. Is Jalen, you go to Seattle,
Yeah.
Russ, you come to Philadelphia. Here's a
I
couple
think
first
it
round picks.
I think it would
For,
have to
for it
be. I
would
I
have to
can't
be.
see I can't see Hurts sitting behind Wilson for the next 4 or 5 years.
But there's another guy that's there too. What about Gardner Minshew?
I,
I, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know.
All right,
Yeah, I think that's a guy that plays above himself. Honestly, he plays a lot of heart, and I love to see that. But
it's the
just
mustache and the
yeah,
hair,
it
and it's
must
the
be.
bandana.
Oh yeah, it's got to be because it's not the
That's what it.
skill.
Oh, he's a
Sorry about
scrapper.
that.
He's a
Sorry, he
scrapper.
is. Yeah.
If there's a quarterback, he's a scrapper. So okay, now how likely is he to move? Is Russell to move? Like if you were to put a percentage on it,
Oh man, a percentage. I'll go 20%. I don't think it's likely.
low. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate to pick the same number as you, but I I want to say that
Well, there's
it
99 other numbers you could pick.
fair enough. 19%, Ronnie.
There you go.
I do
Well
think that
played.
it's. I don't think it's likely this year, but if you're looking in the future, I've seen crazier things happen. I feel like, I mean, we could wake up one day and all of a sudden our phones are blowing up and he's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
I can see it happening. I just think if Pete Carroll's there, Russell Wilson's there. Pete Carroll goes, Russell Wilson goes. And that's not to say that they're married to each other because of their personal relationship. I think it's what it signals for the franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a new coach. We're in for a rebuild. I think Russ would go based on it's a rebuild.
How many more years does Russ have on his current contract? Do you know?
Oh, you had to ask. Let's take a look here. He's under contract. So he's the top contract right now. So his cap number's $37 million this year, which is a lot.
Yeah.
He's under contract for 2 more years. So 2022 and 2023, which might be some of the reason why that speculation is there, because they've been talking about in Seattle, Bobby Wagner might be a cap casualty this offseason. I got to think if so, they would have, let's see, if he's traded pre June 1st, they're only saving $11 million. And they would be on the hook for $26 million of Russell Wilson's money. I can't see them doing that and then bringing in another guy. So no.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, who's our next guy?
So we've got next up is one of your favorites, Jimmy G time, baby.
Adam Schefter said something today that he doesn't think it's a lock that Jimmy G gets traded. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Adam Schefter. If it's not a lock, it's 99%, okay? Like, we're not talking all of a sudden we're maybe 75%. There's reasons behind that that he's going to go. One is money. They are $4.5 million over the cap right now. By trading Jimmy Garoppolo, they free up $25 million in cap space, which they would be just over $20 million in cap space with 22 free agents that they have to sign or whatever they want to do in free agency. Okay. And they can also free up more money if they want to. So it creates a scenario where they're able to keep their core group together, extend Deebo Samuel, extend Nick Bosa, and put more guys around Trey Lance because that's who they drafted, right? So to me, if it's not a lock, Mr. Adam Schefter, it's a 99% chance. He said goodbye, for crying out loud. He said goodbye in a press conference, and I'm a Jimmy G guy. Now, there's a ton of places that he can go. Like we counted how many, what was there at one point? We counted 18 teams that could potentially want to make a change at quarterback.
Yeah. Either make a change or just don't have one.
Yeah, or being involved in getting rid of their starter. So,
right.
Now, there's 3 destinations that I can think of that I think would match what the 49ers would like to do with Jimmy. They've even come out and said, hey, we're looking for a trade partner, and we want it to be in a situation where he's in a winning situation. Like, we're not sending you to the Houston Texans. That's not going to happen.
You said Texans aren't going to win?
Well, do we need to put that across the bottom there? Now we have all these fancy things.
Will the Texans win 3 games next year? Ugh, I don't know.
True or false? At me. 3 teams. Indianapolis Colts, I think, would make sense. That's in the AFC. Not that that's all.
We're just stacking the AFC.
I mean, they have a lot of money over there.
Yeah.
Some of these teams, you got the Indianapolis Colts. They're sitting at, what was it? What did we say? $35.8 million right now. Yeah, they can take on Jimmy G's contract.
And their best player still on his rookie contract too. So
who?
Taylor.
Oh yeah.
He's still on his rookie deal. So, he's going to get a big payday when it comes time.
Yeah. Well, those running backs, that's the thing though. Like, what's a big payday to them? $12 million a year.
I think he could reset the market on the running backs. Personally,
I think he can too. Running the way he does.
Yeah.
So I like the Colts as an area. I like the Washington Commanders. I think that's a spot, and I also like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're all very close.
Say that again.
I can't. Yeah, Commanders.
That's
I can't. It's so weird.
It is.
I would rather call them the Washington football team, quite frankly. Just keep it. We've done this for 2 years. Now I got to get used to another name. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to slip and say the one you don't want me to say. So there we go.
Yeah.
But I think the Washington Commanders, they're $32 million under the cap. The Colts are 35.8 and the Steelers are 28.7. All of which I feel are in the quarterback market. Would you agree on that?
I would.
Is there another team in there that you think that he might go to out of those 3? Like other than those three?
Um, I mean, you've got the Bucks. They're going to be in the market because they still
Yeah.
have a Super Bowl team roster. I think they have some free agents they're going to have to work with, and but if they can do that, because I don't see Godwin leaving, I personally think he stays put. If they can bring in a capable quarterback, and that would be somebody like Jimmy G. Um, all the talk about Garoppolo not being one of the elite, he can't carry a team. I would be curious to see how he could stack up statistically against the better quarterbacks in this league with the weapons like Tampa has, and see if he can put it to rest. That hey, you know what, I can get it done with the right people around me.
He has gotten it done with the right people around him, though, too. Like that's why his winning percentage is the way that it is. The Jimmy's problem, to me, has never really been ability. He's limited, but he's not an elite guy. But he's in that next tier. Like he's a starting quarterback in this league that can win you football
Yeah,
games.
I agree with you on that. What I'm saying is statistically, he's never been a 4,500 passing yards, 40 plus touchdowns guy.
No,
And that's kind of been a knock on him a little bit. And I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I would like to see him in a position with a
yeah,
team and in a system to really see if he could just unload and see what happens. But to your point, I think the Colts are a really good match too.
I think they're a really good match. They have a good running game. We know that he loves, well, I shouldn't say he loves it. It's been the situation that he's been in since 2017 with the 49ers is can run the bejesus out of the football. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that to your point, it is unfair to tell, to say to Jimmy, hey, well, we've never seen you throw 4,500 yards. Well, yeah, when you're turning around and handing off the ball 35 times because that's what Kyle Shanahan likes to do. That's not a knock on Jimmy, Kay. I
Right.
hate when people say that.
Yeah.
That's the type of football that he plays. It's the type of football that his dad played. Like, where do you think he learned it from?
Yeah.
So I agree. I think I would like to see him in a scenario where he throws the ball around a little bit because I think he would turn some heads because he's got a good arm. He's got a really quick release and he knows how to win. Now, of all these, so you mentioned the Colts, right? I think that is a great situation for him. The 49ers have traded with them in the past with DeForest Buckner, where they got a first round pick for DeForest Buckner, who's an elite defensive tackle in the league. I got to be thinking if that has, okay, a first rounder for a defensive tackle, got to be a first rounder for a quarterback like Jimmy, right? Like,
Just one? Are we talking two?
I'm talking one. If the Niners get one, I will be ecstatic because we got him for a 2 from New England. The thing is the injury thing. I feel like it'll be a conditional pick. Like it'll be a
Yeah.
condition, like a second. But if he plays the entirety of the year, like it could turn
That
into a
makes
first.
sense.
That has been talked about enough, but we've seen that with Wentz, and that I feel like their injury history is fairly close as
Mhm.
far as availability. I just want to see him in a good situation. Now, Tampa Bay, that is, I feel like that's a great destination for him. Although, are they kind of, they're going to be a year removed from the Super Bowl, and they have a bunch of free agents. Chris Godwin's a free agent, right?
I
Like,
would
are
have
they going to be able
Fournette.
to hold that together? Brady was losing guys towards the end of the season. Like, does Gronk stay? Like, what do you think
I
that looks
don't.
like?
Well, as far as like with Gronk, because he hasn't made a decision yet either. I think he's another one that might be waiting to see what happens as far as the quarterback, because next in line in Tampa is Kyle Trask, and I'm not sure there's too many people getting in line to play for him. I'm not saying he can't get it done or anything, but we've not seen anything at all from him other than what he did at Florida. So I think when it comes to Tampa, it's a lot of their pending free agents. I think is going to be dependent on the quarterback, and if that's the case, I can see Tampa throwing some picks at San Francisco to bring over somebody like Garoppolo, who can, I think, carry the torch. Obviously, he's no Brady, but and do enough because they've got. I think Godwin stays. I think if they can get Garoppolo over, I think Fournette stays. Of course, you got Mike Evans still. I think maybe Gronkowski stays because I don't think Gronkowski is necessarily the prime Gronk anymore, but he can still get it done. And they have a couple of other tight ends there. They're actually pretty
Yeah,
good
they do.
too.
Cameron Brate.
So Yeah, so I think it's a great would be a great move for Tampa, and I think it would put him in a really good situation too. And I don't want to send another quarterback to the AFC. I just can't.
Yeah, no, you're already stacked over there.
Yeah.
I, you know, I'm going to go with the Commanders. I feel like that, or even the Steelers. The only thing is with the Steelers that they don't traditionally trade
They
high
don't.
picks for
Yeah.
players. That's the thing. The only thing about that situation where it could come to fruition this year is, they go, all right, what quarterback we got? Oh, that's Mason Rudolph back there. Yeah, I'll give you first.
It would definitely go against the Steelers historically how they do business. So, but I don't think they handled the Roethlisberger situation very well. I think they should have added a quarterback probably a couple of years ago
Yeah.
to sit and study and learn. I don't know if that's because maybe they misjudged what they had in Rudolph, but we've not seen him do anything. They have Haskins there, and apparently Tomlin loves him. But in his time at Washington, he was not good, like at all. Had some character concerns off the field as well, and that's definitely not a Tomlin type player. So we'll see what happens there. I am with you. I just don't think they go the trade route in Pittsburgh, even though they are probably with the right quarterback in contention, at least for a playoff spot.
So, I mean, if they don't, let's say they don't, right?
Okay.
I feel like that's a spot where, and we could probably talk about that in our next episode because this is going to continue talking about quarterbacks. It's the hot topic of the offseason. But Jameis Winston, I feel like that could be a really great spot for him. There's a lot around him. You got a good running back, you got some good receivers, and you got a good defense. New Orleans is going to try to steal him, I imagine, again. However, Sean Payton's not there, so it's a completely different coach. So he's still in that boat. And they're $76 million over the cap right now.
Yeah,
Okay?
there's that.
How? I don't
know.
what team is going to be left? What team? I don't know. So
I could see, Winston
I
going
can
to
see that.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, and we'll dive in a little more into that one too later on.
For
But
Jimmy, I think it's the Commanders. For me, they've already had that dialogue. It seems like I'm trying to think of who it was that said that they would entertain a first round pick for Jimmy. And this was a couple weeks ago. They have a lot around him there. I mean, you have Terry McLaurin. I feel like you have a couple running backs. You have Antonio Gibson that's there.
mm-hmm.
You have a good defense. What's that, McKissick? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're maybe a step ahead of where Jimmy was in San Francisco in 2017 when he got there. Like, I feel like they're a little bit more they have a bigger capability, more players than when Jimmy got traded to the Niners in 2017.
Yeah.
Like, they had Kittle, and Kittle wasn't even Kittle yet. They didn't have Debo. They didn't have all these guys. They acquired them. I mean, they at least have Chase, their defensive end there, and he's a stud. He's going to be coming off an ACL, but that can be done these days. So I just feel like that's an area where if you plug in Jimmy to that team, and the thing about Jimmy that you're also getting is not just a quarterback, you're getting a leader that guys like guys like that dude. So I feel like because of that, I think his market is a little bit better than just looking at his quarterback skills. It's looking at the ability to him lead your football team and to galvanize a group behind it. But I see Jimmy. I mean, I could really flip a coin and say between Pittsburgh and the Washington Commanders, but for the sake of this and knowing what the Steelers do, I'm going to say the Commanders on this one.
Yeah, and I'm sticking with the Bucks on that. I do want to throw this at you though. You mentioned, of course, him going to the Commanders. Do you think Garoppolo at the helm would be enough to entice? Because we mentioned that maybe the Redskins. I'm sorry. See, I did it.
See?
The Commanders.
The football team. We're used to it.
The Commanders need a second wide receiver, Devontae Adams. Would Garoppolo be enough to entice him to go over?
No. Reason being is I think Jimmy would probably be like the third quarterback that he would be looking at to go to. And I don't think that's a knock on. It is a knock on Jimmy. Okay. It is.
It is. Yeah.
But he wants to stay with Aaron Rodgers if he can. I think that's his first and foremost, and he might have tunnel vision on it. And if all of a sudden Aaron's staying in Green Bay and Devontae Adams like isn't getting that contract, I feel like that's the worst case scenario for Devontae. Because I
Staying
think
in
he's
Green Bay?
going, well, what do I chase? Money? Do I chase a good situation? Who's got a good quarterback? Maybe
Yeah.
in that scenario he would, because in that scenario, if he does go to Washington, I feel like Seattle is staying put. I feel like that means the Packers might be staying put. If Devontae, if any one of those guys went, Devontae's gone to one of those teams. So if that scenario is there and Devontae's looking at Jimmy G in Washington, I think it could be. If that's the only guy, if that's the top guy that went and he's not getting re-signed by the Packers, I wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, what about the Chargers though? They got Justin
Yeah.
Herbert.
I was just going to
I
say
think
that
they might
because
be. Yeah,
Mike Williams is a free agent. So if they lose
yeah,
him, they have a young guy, Joshua Palmer, who
yeah.
they're really big on. But if they lose Williams and they have a chance to bring over Devontae Adams to play with Herbert, oh,
And Keenan
wow.
Allen, like Keenan Allen's still
Yeah.
there. Like, whoa,
Oh, yeah, there's that guy too. Yeah. That
yeah.
would be a scary offense for sure.
That's like the difference of the arms race. Like they have the arm. Like here's a like a missile that can, whatever that is. I got nerdy there. My bad.
Yeah. No, it's okay. You should probably just stop though.
I'm going to. That's it. Okay,
All
Jimmy.
right.
We got him with the Commanders.
I'm
What
sending
do we
him to
got next?
Tampa.
You got him to Tampa. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we got next? I feel like Wentz. Is
Yep.
Wentz next?
Yep.
Oh,
Good old Mr. Wentz.
okay. You're the AFC guy. Mr. I got my Buffalo Bills on hat backwards. Do you think he's done in Indy?
Uh for what they gave up to get him over, I don't see them getting any of that, even close to that, in return in a trade. I almost see them more bringing somebody in to compete, and I think Wentz at this point in his career and going forward is a backup quarterback. Uh, Now, if they bring in somebody like a Garoppolo or whatever, and he beats them out, and he gets to start over Garoppolo, then great, he earned it. Then he continues on as a starter. I don't see that happening, but I just don't see them letting him go, because even if I don't know what his contract uh, cap is, so if they release
Let me
him,
take a look while you speak on that.
yeah. So even if there is a savings, I just don't see them, and I don't think his contract's that big.
It isn't. Matter of fact, so he is under contract until 2024, but he has no guaranteed salary the next 2 years. So I mean, they could basically cut him after next year and save a ton of money, like 26 million next year. They could save by just simply releasing him. He has no dead cap.
But if they
But
keep him, he's basically becomes one of the best backup quarterbacks in football.
yeah, so that's 2023, 2022. So if he was cut pre-June 1st, they would save $13.2 million. And they
It's a
wouldn't owe
pretty
him
good.
anything else after that. So they could almost have a clean breakup with him right now
Yeah.
and just be done.
For what they had to give up for, I don't know. I think a lot
It
of
was
it's going
only
to
a
be
condition. So it was a second rounder conditional first. So the damage is already done, right? Now, the thing for me on Wentz, like despite what you gave up for him, that guy had an opportunity to win a football game in Jacksonville to get you to the playoffs. Now, let me ask you, Ronnie, did he or did he not make that happen?
He did not, and he did a very good job of looking terrible in that game.
He won me $100 in that game.
But
You're
I
welcome,
will say
Marcos Garcia.
this: there's another quarterback that looked terrible against Jacksonville Jaguars too.
I wasn't going down that road, Ronnie. I wasn't doing that
I'm
to you.
just saying, sometimes it just doesn't work
They
out.
had a lot of offensive lineman problems in that game, right? Two of their
They did.
tackles were out.
Yeah, they had a couple of guys out, but I don't know. I think Frank Reich likes Wentz. I think he would make a suitable backup at the very least. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that there's a team out there that'd be willing to trade for him, given what
I don't think
did.
there is either. I think if you get done with Wentz, it's this. You
Yeah.
cut him, you wash your hands of him. I mean, if somebody was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a third." Oh, okay. Like
Okay.
Please. Thank you
Yeah.
for being on Facebook Marketplace with me for the quarterbacks.
But keeping Wentz as a backup quarterback option for whoever these quarterbacks they want to bring in, maybe it's a Winston. I don't know. Maybe they bring in Mitchell Trubisky. Who knows? Then at least Wentz knows the offense and can be kind of a mentor, tutor to help the new guy learn the offense and help him get on his feet and get rolling. And hey, maybe he beats him out in preseason and keeps the job. I don't know. Because he didn't have anybody competing against him last year. He didn't have anybody in Philadelphia
Yeah.
competing against him. And that's a really good way of bringing out the best in people is force them to compete.
Yeah, force them to compete. I mean, that's what happened to Jimmy. Let's be real. Like, I mean, we're having that conversation. They brought in Lance. It wasn't necessarily to push Jimmy, but they knew that there was a scenario that Lance wasn't ready. So it kind of worked out that way where Lance did push Jimmy. Jimmy played well enough. I mean, they went to the NFC Championship game for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Now with Wentz, I think he's got to be done. He's got to be done. Like the damage has been done. Like, do you really roll into another season with a roster that you can go to the playoffs and win with right now with Carson Wentz after what happened last year?
Not as your starter. I think they're definitely bringing somebody in. I just don't think they're going to cut bait with him.
You think they'll keep him and bring in a guy?
I do.
So $13 million, okay? You can say bye-bye. Bye-bye, Carson. I hope you have a great car salesman career. $13.2 million. Like,
if he gets released, somebody will pick him up.
$13.2 million, you keep him for why? Like, if he's not your guy, why would you keep him there?
Because who else are you going to bring in?
Who would you pick?
To go over him?
It doesn't matter who you would pick. He's gone, bro. He is gone. There's no way that they're going to keep. If Wentz is not the starting quarterback, he's gone. Like,
so what's the cap hit for this year?
What's that?
What's the cap hit for this year?
So this year is a $28 million cap hit. If he's on the that's my point. So if he's on the roster, it's 28 mil. If you get rid of him, you eat $15 million of that. Okay, 15 million even. There's a roster bonus and all this stuff, but you can save, and this is pre-June 1st, okay? You can save $13.2 million if he's not there. So your cap goes from 35 million, close to 50, right? To be able to bring in additional guys, bring in another quarterback, retool and make a run in that loaded AFC, which I think you would have to. If he was cut post June 1st, it's the same. So it's literally the same. Now, if he was traded, this is why, even if it was for a 7th rounder, okay, just mind you, I'm just saying, okay,
yeah.
You want to know why it benefits the Colts? There's no dead money if he gets traded. They will save $28 million, $28.2 million. Now, the thing is, who's going to do that? Because then they're going to have to, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so let's say he gets traded. Who comes calling?
Okay, so I'll play the game. I think it would be a team like a Carolina potentially that would say, okay, only problem is, let me look at so they're 12 million under the cap. I can see that happening. I could even see, remember me talking about the Browns? Somebody to push Baker a little bit to have a little bit of an insurance policy. Okay. If he gets hurt, I can see him going to the Browns, not under that contract though. Like, that's the only thing, is that there would have to be something where, okay, we'll give you a pick, but you'll take on certain part of his salary for this year. We'll take on the rest.
I can't imagine somebody trading for a potential backup quarterback making $28 million.
Yeah, he's not going to make, he's not going to make $28 million.
Right.
That's why I think it's this. They're done. I don't think that there's a team out there that would be willing to make the trade, because the teams that need a quarterback, they need the guy. And Wentz has already proven twice that he's not the guy. So
yeah,
he can get signed on as a backup somewhere else. He'll never make that kind of money again, even though that he looks like one of the royal princes. He won't. This
guy is a former MVP candidate. Like, what happened to him?
I don't know. And I don't want to trash on him, because I know that he is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
but he's not. I think it's the health and the inconsistencies at the worst times.
Yeah.
Like he didn't play bad last year. He didn't play bad last year at all. I felt like he actually played fairly well. Let me pull up his numbers here. Carson Wentz.
Yeah. He started out. It was down the stretch that really cost him.
So he threw for 27 touchdowns, only 7 picks. Okay. He had a 9-8 record. The thing is that here's the inconsistencies that drive people crazy. 62.4 completion percentage for the year. That's not good.
No,
that's not good. His touchdown to interception ratio is like pretty decent. He takes a lot of sacks. And his rating's under 100. So 94.6.
What's the fumbles look like? I feel like he has a problem with that.
Well, it looks like when the ball comes out of your hands and it hits the ground, and then everybody trying to
gotcha. Okay, yeah, I wasn't too sure about that.
Fumbles, 8 fumbles, 8 of them.
That's a lot in a season.
That is. And I don't know if they're all fumble. So let me click on this. I don't think there's all fumble loss, but I mean the ball hit the ground 8 times for sure. Indianapolis.
I think that's significant.
Yeah. I mean, he still put the ball on the ground. 7 picks.
I don't know. Well, it'll be another interesting scenario to see what happens. I just don't.
He's thrown a lot of interceptions in his career, dude. A lot. 57. And he hasn't played in that many games. So 57 in his career. He's played in 85 games. I guess that's less than somebody we were talking about in the playoffs earlier, which was Aaron Rodgers having a 12-10 playoff record with like throwing picks and fumbling the ball. He had almost a turnover per game in the playoffs. That's less, but then again, Carson hasn't seen the playoffs. 1, because he was injured, and then 2 was last year. And he blew that loss to Jacksonville. He wasn't able to get there.
Yeah, I think it's really going
to keep him.
Yeah, and that's where I was going. The argument to keep him is dependent on who they can bring in. Yeah. Like if they can get a Garoppolo, okay, fine, cut bait. But if they bring in a Winston or some of the other guys in this list that we've got, like Mariota, he's a free agent. Fitzpatrick's a free agent.
Like, I can see Fitzpatrick.
Any of these 40-year-old Fitzpatrick, and I don't know.
Listen, I like Fitzpatrick like you like Mitchell Trubisky, okay? You love Mitchell Trubisky. I should have had a nickel for every time you said on the last podcast, we wouldn't have to do this anymore.
I'll do it again. Trubisky going to Indianapolis.
Oh, my God.
Why not?
Just like him you like him in blue and white is what it is. That's what it is. There's an issue there. Got something. I think it's going to get crazy, man. The weirdest thing about all of this is there could be a lot that happens, and then there could be a lot that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Nothing. So, well, Ronnie, we covered all these. We got some for next time that I know that we wanted to bring up. So we'll save that for when can we expect to do this again? Maybe Friday?
Yeah, I'm thinking let's do this Friday. So on Friday, we'll talk about Winston, Carr, Cousins potentially, and a little bit of probably Mariota and Trubisky again. And then there's also another quarterback that I think a lot of people are forgetting about, and that's Watson. We'll talk about him and see what's going on in that situation as well.
All right. Well, until Friday, this was awesome. I mean, we got a background. You can see your face. I can see when you're getting ready to talk. This is awesome, man.
This is great.
Well, I can't wait to do it. Let's do it Friday. But then, until then, Ronnie, I think we're out.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too.